If you had one shot or one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip? Yo. His palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Mom's spaghetti, he's nervous, but on the surface he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. But he keeps on forgetting what he wrote down. The whole crowd goes so loud, he opens his mouth, but the words won't come out. He's choking how? Everybody's choking now. The clock's run out, time's up, over, loud. Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Oh, there goes rabbit. He choke. He's so mad, but he won't give up. Daddies, he know he won't have it. He knows his whole back to these ropes. It don't matter, he's dope. He knows that, but he's broke. He's so stacked that he knows when he goes back to this mobile home, that's when it's back to the lab again, yo. This old rhapsody better go back to this moment and hope it don't pass him.
Listen, we can talk about the flag, but let's talk about... Wait.
And good morning, everybody. Welcome to Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media Live. You know the drill. On Facebook, share it out, retweet it out on Twitter and on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up and subscribe button. Easiest way to get involved is on the YouTube page where you can comment and give us your thoughts on the conversation at hand today. Phillies lose. We're going to talk about that. Now the real work begins for the Phillies. Now that the magical run is over, now we can get into the real nitty-gritty on what this team is and where this team is. So we're going to talk that. We're going to bring up a little bit more discussion on the LIV Golf Tour. I want to talk about that a little bit. Get Mark's intelligent brain thinking about what's going on over there on the LIV Tour and the statement that these players are making by going over there. And we're going to joke a little bit about the end, about the newest hero in Philadelphia sports, the newest man to kind of piggyback on Philly's greatness and want to become part of Philly. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. I am Phil Stifle, your host at Bearded Knowledge on Twitter. Joining me today, my man. He'll be here 4 times this week. I don't know if I'm going to be able to put up with that, but 4 times with my man, Mark Muscatelli at Mark Whittacy. Good morning, Mark. How you doing?
Good morning. How are you, Phil?
Oh, I'm you texted me 15 minutes ago. Where's the link for the show? I'm a little behind the 8 ball today. Everything that could go wrong so far this morning, getting this show ready, has gone wrong. So maybe that'll make this the best show possible.
How dare Phil have a day off from his day job yesterday and then be unprepared today for the most important thing he's doing this week?
Dude, I'm prepared. I made my graphics for the show yesterday. I was sitting there watching the Tonys, making graphics, which let me tell you something. If anybody doesn't watch the Tonys, even if you're not a huge person into musicals and plays, it is by far the best award show there is ever put on every single year. It's entertaining, it's fun, it's lighthearted, a little bit political last night with some of the things and some of the jokes and whatnot, but you get that with award shows. But the Tony Awards is by far my favorite award show. I don't even watch the Oscars or the Emmys or any of that stuff. I watch the Tonys every single year. So don't at me at that. I don't really care.
It was on in our house too. I can't say that I watched it like frame by frame, but my wife did. She loved the performances. My question comes up every year when the Tonys are on. I said, is Hugh Jackman hosting again this year or not? That's the only dude that I really know that kind of transcends everything.
Well, Hugh Jackman's a great host of the Tonys, but actually better is what's his name? Doogie Howser, Neil Patrick Harris.
Okay.
He hosted it about 4 or 5 years in a row back maybe like 10 years ago, and he's fantastic at it as well. People would be surprised. You watch the Tonys and you start seeing the people that are nominated for awards and performing, you're like, huh, I know that guy. Huh. It's not Hugh Jackman's not the only major star that does singing and dancing. Mm-hmm. I mean, Tony Shalhoub was up there. He's big on Broadway, Tony Shalhoub.
Really? From Monk, right.
Most people don't, if you don't know, or I know him first from Wings.
Wings, yes, absolutely.
Great sitcom back in the early 90s. Let's see who else. Billy Crystal did a performance last night on stage. He was hilarious. Let's see. I forget somebody. The one guy I was like, oh, who's that? Oh, Sam Mendes. He won Best Director. He directed the last 2 James Bond movies, plus a million other movies. So he won a Tony last night for directing of a play or a musical last night. So you'd be surprised how much of a crossover there is between Hollywood and Broadway.
And Jennifer Hudson. Jennifer Hudson was elected to that club where you won an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony last night, which is pretty impressive to do.
Yeah, like I said, I'm a huge fan of the Tonys. I think it's excellent performances. And I don't get to go to Broadway very often. I'll tell you off the air. I have a really weird thing. I've never seen a show on Broadway, but you know what? I'm big into musicals. I love that stuff. I used to perform in them. I used to sing and do that stuff. Yeah, I was in choirs and things like that. Yes. I was.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
You're laughing at me. You want to come back on 4 times this week? You're gonna laugh at me that I'm a singer and a dancer.
I'll tell you, I can't say that I've ever been to Broadway. My wife has been to Broadway a few. No, I'm lying. I saw the Producers on Broadway years ago. But I make it a point to try to go see a show in Philadelphia at least once a year. The last show I saw was Young Frankenstein the musical. Was that on Walnut Street Theater? I forget where. Walnut Street Theater or the Marion Theater, which has a new name now. I forget what the name is. I make it a point to go there at least once a year to see something. I don't even have to know what exactly it is, just to see something so I could feel like I'm a cultured human being. But they're really, it's really fun. And I have the luxury. I live right near Pittman, New Jersey. And there's the Broadway in Pittman. It's a Broadway theater, and it's one of the older theaters in the area. And they have shows from time to time. And I saw, let's see, what did I see? 2 funny Philly guys there. Joe Conklin and Big Daddy Graham did stand-up with Ray Diddy being the MC at the night. So that was really, really cool. I saw that a while ago. But they have shows from time to time. If I wanted to, I could probably walk there. So go see a Broadway show is what we're saying.
I fell in love, and I'm gonna date myself here because people, the younger people watching the show won't even know what this is. But I went to high school, Devon Prep, up in Valley Forge area, out by King of Prussia, and there used to be a theater up there in Valley Forge called the Valley Forge Music Center. I think that was what it was called, Valley Forge Music something. And it was a theater of the round. And if you don't know what theater round is, the stage is in the middle, and all the seats are around. So it's a very minimal prop kind of performance that gets put on. And it was literally a 1-minute drive from my high school. So their final dress rehearsal for every new play that would go on there or musical, they would bring my high school in as the audience for their final walkthrough. So we used to get to see every 3 months they would have a new, production go through this, this theater. So we would get to see every 3 months a new play. And I mean, I still remember it. I don't even remember which one it was, but they were doing a Guys and Dolls, which is one of my favorite musicals. And one of the stars of the Guys and Dolls, you're laughing at me because I know my musicals. Okay. I'll tell you another little thing. We're going to talk sports eventually here. But one of the original Dukes of Hazzards guys, the blonde one.
John Schneider.
Yeah. He was a big musical guy, and he was the star of Guys and Dolls on that tour. So and then after the show, we got to meet all these guys, and me being a fan of cheesy 80s, and 70s, TV shows, I got to meet him after the show and just shake his hand. This is before cell phone cameras and stuff. So I don't have any pictures of this stuff and all, but that was pretty cool. The other really cool thing is when I worked on cruise ships, I got to, we occasionally get a celebrity on this ship, to meet and greet or whatever. And Rita Moreno, one of the stars of the original West Side Story, was on the ship. And I got to sit down on stage and do an interview with her for about 45 minutes to an audience and take audience questions and get her to answer them. Then we went out to dinner that night, me and Rita Moreno. We had a whole entire night together, me and her. And as a musical fan, that was like literally, like I've met some celebrities in my day. To me, that was like right up there, number 1 or 2 of greatest moments of my life right there.
West Side Story is a very, very good stage play. Yes,
and the original movie, I haven't seen the new version of it, but the original, it's
oh
amazing.
Yeah. Amazing. My mom, it's probably one of her favorite movies, and my daughter loves the movie too, so they kind of bond with that. Mike, real quick, you talk about meeting famous people and whatnot. A few years ago at the Marion Theater for my birthday, my wife bought me tickets to go see a Bronx Tales one-man stage play with Chaz Palminteri, and I didn't think I was going to like it because I loved the movie, and I didn't think anything would match up to the movie. Phil, I got to tell you, it was one of the greatest things that I ever seen. And I heard after the play, he goes out in the back alley and he meets people like for free. And I went out in the back alley and I met him. I shook his hand. I took a picture with him. And if you go peruse through my Facebook pictures, you'll see a picture of me, Chaz, and my wife right after the play. It was one of the greatest things that I ever seen. If he's in your town or nearby and you love that movie, please buy a ticket to go see that.
I've heard other people say how great that one-man show is. So yeah, definitely. That's awesome. That's really cool. You got a picture with them and all. And I'm just joking about how I didn't get pictures with these other people, Schneider or Rita Moreno. I always joke that I'm so glad there was no cell phone cameras and stuff like that when I was in college and younger, because there's a lot of things that I would have got caught doing that would have been pretty bad. But on the flip side, it's kind of sad that a lot of that stuff's not stored in the cloud, the good moments, you know what I mean? So I miss not having certain things, saved like that. But anyway, all right, that's enough of that. That 3-minute intro went 11 minutes here. So
oh my goodness.
Let's get to the Phillies here. Phillies lose in, grand fashion yesterday, and their big winning streak. What was it? 9 games, their winning streak. We were going to lose eventually. Obviously, we weren't going to win the rest of the season. And, if you're going to lose, you might as well lose with a bang like yesterday. What was it? 13-1. And I don't even really care specifics about yesterday's game, because I'm looking at it more now. All right, we fired Joe Girardi. We had this fun little outburst of wins in a row. We're back into it now because we are a 500 team again. And now we can actually start looking at the future, the rest of the season, the fact that we have an easier schedule for the rest of the year, or at least the foreseeable future, what this team has to do to not just stay in contention, but maybe put together a few more 5- and 6-game winning streaks over the course of the next month or two, so that we can really, really, get back in this, so to say. So after watching yesterday's game, Mark, or catching up on what happened yesterday, if you had to put your finger on one thing that is the most important thing that this team needs to do going forward to become a winning team regularly, what would you think it is?
Probably situational hitting. I mean, they had that, what was the 5th inning? The bases were loaded and they struck out twice.
Yeah.
You got to get some runs there, especially when you're down a few runs. I think that's important. And the bullpen, just getting the bullpen set up. There's been a lot of clamor to get Sir Anthony in that closer role and move Knebel out of there. I think he's got the lineup set now, Phil, because you're going to see the young guys play more often, and I think he's got your 1 through 9 more or less set. The next step is to really set that bullpen up, and then obviously execute. If you have that lineup and you got the bases loaded with 1 out, you got to drive a couple runs in. It's just the way it's got to be. I was going to kid you, and I thought you were going to ask me about like Rob Thompson and what he do. I was going to say fire him because he lost yesterday in grand fashion.
That would be part of the overreaction Monday statement. Right? So,
no,
but the question is then, because situational hitting is obviously an issue, and maybe my points of what I think we should do might be different. But it's not like situational hitting isn't fixed by making a big trade or calling up a young kid from the minor league. What do the Phillies have to do? What do the coaches have to do to get situational hitting ingrained into these guys' heads? I mean, you coach Little League, but you know what it's like to coach people in life. It's not like you could fire or cut all the players on this team. You know what I mean? So how do they go about working on the situational hitting aspect of it?
Well, I think the one thing is Nick Castellanos is really in the shitter right now. How do you fix, if you fix him, I think everything else can fall into place, because I think he's one of the guys that might be holding the team back, so to speak, on the lineup. So you want him to see better pitches. Do you move him down in the lineup? Do you move him up in the lineup? I'm not sure. And I just said, hey, he's probably got the lineup fixed on where he wants, but Nick is a big question mark right now. And he came out yesterday and said that he's not feeling himself. I don't know why. Maybe it's because he lives in Ben Simmons' house now. I don't know, but
we never got into that conversation. Should Rob Thompson force Nick Castellanos to move?
I think he should.
I think so too.
No, I
give him a day or two off. I mean, does that help a major league player that's struggling to get a day off or two to sit back and just Nick Castellanos wasn't supposed to be the starting right fielder every single day. He was going to be a left fielder / DH kind of guy, maybe sprinkling a third base here or there. Are we putting too much pressure on him playing right field right now? I mean, you look at it. I mean, he doesn't look like he moves fleet of foot when he's out there chasing down fly balls. Could that be part of it? Could JT, who's also struggling, being the guy protecting him in the lineup, is that hurting him any? Nick Castellanos, to me, I think the best thing to do with him is not move him out of that 4-hole, but just to give him a day or two off. Like tonight, just start Matt Vierling tonight, in right field if you have to, or start Odubel in right field and Moniak in center, whatever you got to do. I think a day or two off. These guys are playing a lot of games right now. We've had very few days off to start this season. Maybe a day or two off would help him clear his head, reset.
I agree there. And this is the perfect week to do that. They have 8 games in 7 days against the Marlins and the Nationals. I was looking at the schedule and I'm counting, and I'm like, the Nationals, they have 5 games with the Nationals. I'm like, I've never seen a 5-game series. Here, one of them is a doubleheader. So this is a prime week where maybe you do rest a JT Realmuto. He'll definitely be rested a couple games. And they probably should reward Garrett Stubbs for pitching yesterday and get him starting it.
I hate it.
Yeah. Did he give up a home run last too? I think, or a run or something like that.
He gave up 1 run last night. 19.
1 run.
Struck out? No, he didn't strike anybody out. Home run. Yeah, he did give up a home run. Dude, I hate when you throw positional players out there to pitch. I really do. I don't care that the game's over. I've seen it. You've seen it. Pit players hurt them. I mean, the most famous would be Jose Canseco hurting his arm throwing. It happens, and you put your players at risk that aren't used to pitching up there. Just make one of your make one of your relievers. Who pitched in the 8th inning there was it Bilotti? No, Norwood. Norwood sucks already. Just make him eat it and just make him go out there for another inning. You know what I mean? You put your player at risk by doing that. But yeah, give him a little bonus and let him start tonight.
I would make him start. And then going back to the position players pitching, at one time it was a novelty and fun. And again, baseball's supposed to be fun. It's entertainment. Yeah. Now it's strategic by these managers that once there's like a 10-run lead, I'm putting my shortstop or my reserve infielder or my catcher to pitch. And it's not fun anymore. And like you said, somebody could get hurt. It's a defeatist attitude, and like you have 15 men like pitching staffs. I mean, you tell me you don't have a guy to finish the game. Yeah. I agree with you there. But going back to resting some players that need some rest, again, this is 8 games in 7 days. I would see a bunch of guys rest. I would rest Harper too. I know he's tearing the cover off the ball, but damn, his arm is his arm, man. And
isn't it an awful theory that, I always like to talk about taking a step back to take 2 steps forward with all the teams, always in different scenarios, that it's almost okay to take a step back this week and rest a bunch of guys, especially this series against the Marlins going into the National Series, giving multiple, go ahead and give Castellanos and JT off tonight. And then maybe do Castellanos and Harper tomorrow night. And yes, by taking those big guns out of your lineup, you might set yourself up for some losses. But those losses, those one or 2 steps back, might set you up where you can be well rested, be fresh for a 5-game series against the Nationals, and maybe you win all 5 of those games because the Nationals are no, world beaters anymore. So is it okay to consider? What kind of message would that send as Rob Thompson? We're going to take a step back this week. We're going to rest some guys, but big picture, it's going to be better. Does that hurt the locker room or does that help the locker room?
More and more we talk about this, it sounds to me like load management in the NBA, right?
To an extent. I hate load management.
I would say that it probably wouldn't hurt the locker room right now because things are going really well. They're playing loose, they're having fun, and they're performing, and they're getting runs on board. Yeah, they had a dud yesterday. Okay, great. They weren't going to win 162 straight. They just weren't. Now they could reset and start over. And you got 8 games in 7 days. Can they go? If they go 5-3, I think we're gold. I'd like to see them go 6-2 or better. But 5-3 is not bad. I could live with that. And what pisses me off the most, though, on this run that we've had, and I hadn't been paying attention to the rest of the league, especially the NL East, Braves have ripped off 11 straight right now. It's like, come on, guys! Like we're finally getting a run on everything, and nothing has really moved. Nothing has really moved for us, other than us being less games out of first place, which we'll probably never catch up to anyway.
Yeah, we're 9 out of first place now. The Braves are up to 11 wins in a row. That is correct. And honestly, the Marlins haven't fallen farther behind us either. They're 7-3 in their last 10. So it's like everybody's kind of playing really well in the NL East right now, outside of the Nationals. But yeah, I mean, 5-3. If you told me right now we could just skip forward till next Monday, and next Monday we talk about them being 5-3 this week, dude, I'll sign that contract right now and be very happy, especially if it gets us a couple days of breaks for some guys, because I think it's much needed to get a break for some of these guys. I want to talk a couple other things here about these Phillies, and the next one I want to talk about is Odubel Herrera. I know we all hate Odubel Herrera for who he is as a person, awful person, has done some things off the field that should have warranted him not even playing baseball for the Phillies anymore. But there's a lot of people that are bashing why he's in the starting lineup regularly over Mickey Moniak. And I honestly said it. I said it this weekend, and I kind of got bashed because people are telling me I support domestic violence, which I obviously do not. I not even remotely close to that. But if you're going to have him on the roster, you're not going to have him sit every single day. And Odubel Herrera is right now one of our hottest hitters, or at least most consistent hitters. And starting him over Mickey Moniak, unfortunately, is the smart move at this moment.
Well, yeah. If you want to win games, you want to put the best players out there, or the players that are playing well. But all right, Odubel Herrera, take the domestic violence piece out. Look at his entire career. He is a dumb baseball player. He's never going to get smarter. He's always going to make a bonehead play at least once a week that's going to cost you a run or cost you a game. He's not a smart baseball player, and he never was. And, once his contract was up, you probably should have walked away from him as a player. Add on the fact that he is a domestic violence. I know he's not guilty of it because his wife or girlfriend never followed through with the charges. He was suspended. And here's kind of where I'm at. Everybody does deserve a second chance, usually. You might not like it, but
yeah, but I want to address this from Big Ed here. Michael Vick went to prison for his crimes. Michael Vick did the longest sentence for anybody ever convicted of that crime ever. They made a statement, the court system, out of Michael Vick. So Michael Vick got his second chance after doing the time for his crime. Odubel somehow convinced his I think it was his fiance at the time, to drop the charges. It was just whatever. And he was suspended for a little while there, but I think it's kind of a different situation. But on the flip side of the equation, yeah, I mean, Michael Vick got his second chance. I never supported Michael Vick as an Eagle. I still cheered for my Eagles. Never bought a Michael Vick jersey. Never went to an autograph sign. Honestly, I would have been okay if Michael Vick never stepped foot in the league again. He got his second chance. But he did the crime. What do we know about Odubel repenting for his sins, if you want to call it that? Has it ever been brought out that he went to, some kind of way to better himself, to learn from his mistakes? Did he do any, did he do anything to better himself? And we don't know, because he was never, actually forced to do anything.
I'm going to tell you a quick personal story. Not so much personal, but something that I could vouch for. The week he beat his girl and got suspended, he was in the Target in South Philadelphia, and was my cousin saw him at the Target, went up to him, and he was taking pictures with fans there. So that kind of tells you, like, the disconnect. He has a picture. He has it on his Facebook, and he posted something 1 week after beating his girl. He's taking pictures with fans. So that tells me, and I have no reason not to believe that to be true. that he's an idiot. He's dumb. And that kind of translates to what he does on the field. Swinging at balls between his leg, misplaying fly balls, not knowing where to run. And you know, I tweeted out the picture today trying to break up a double play. He slid halfway through the baseline. Like, he is a professional baseball player and he makes mistakes. And I'm not lying, Phil, that my little league 12U team makes. And he gets paid millions of dollars to do it.
Right. But still, it comes down to the fact that he's hitting 320 something in his last 3 weeks. So, and Rob Thompson said it after the game yesterday or Saturday. Look, he's one of the streakiest. I mean, Jason always says how we got all streaky hitters. Well, Odubel's the streakiest of streaky hitters. He's hot right now. You can't bench him. If he's on the team, he's your hottest hot guy right now. You got to play him. Now, you can crucify the Phillies organization for bringing him back. I mean, they bought him out and let him walk away and then brought him back again. So they're double paying him this year. They're paying his buyout and then they're paying his contract too. So you can hate on the organization for bringing him back, but since he's on the roster now, they kind of have no choice but to, continue to ride the hot hand as long as he's hot still. Now, if he goes on one of those 0 for 30s, then sure. Now it's time to sit him and, let him disappear slowly. But at this moment, if he's on, you got to play the best 9 guys in your starting lineup. And right now, he's one of the best 9 guys.
I'd like to see them go on another streak like they just did, where they can justify sitting him and playing Moniak, where everybody's hitting like. All right, we got 8 games. Say we go 7-1. I want to see a lot of Moniak. If we're winning games at that clip, then I want him out. And Moniak is the future, not Odubel. And I want to see whether or not that this kid can play. I think he can play. But you're not.
I'm a big Moniak fan.
You're not going to be able to figure that out if he's on the bench and he's not getting regular at bats. So and that's where Dombrowski and Samfold and Middleton come in and say, "Fuck Odubel." Excuse my language. Get this kid in here and see what he's got, because eventually, like next year, you're not going to bring him back, are you? Are you going to bring Odubel back next year?
No, he won't be on the team next year. Yeah, they got another kid down the minors that they like a lot, and Moniak and whatnot. And yeah, he won't be on this team next year.
You know what?
They missed a big opportunity.
Unless they're showcasing him to trade him for a middle reliever somewhere soon, like you're not going to wait till because somebody's going to want a hitter like him in their lineup, but they have to prove that they got somebody behind him that can fill that role. And like you said, Phil, like we want Moniak to be that guy, but he's got to show a little bit more when he does have that chance too.
They missed an opportunity when they fired Joe Girardi. He wasn't hitting. I mean, he had just started to get hot, so he had 1 or 2 good games at that point. They designated for assignment, basically outright released Roman Quinn, who was only hitting 190 or something like that. But you know what? As a bench piece, whatever, they could have instead just cleaned all the because I got to think in my head that Odubel in that clubhouse might not be the most popular guy. You got rid of Joe Girardi. You might as well have gotten rid of Odubel Herrera too. At that moment, you could have justified it, just cleaning out all the bad juju, all the bad energy, all out at the same time. I guarantee you got. Look, I'm not an overly religious man. I'm not, but there's a lot of people that probably do not agree with him being on this team in that clubhouse for what they believe in and their personal beliefs. And you got somebody like that in a clubhouse that could. I'm not going to say it's going to him being on the team's fracturing the clubhouse. But getting rid of him could bring the clubhouse even closer together. So they missed a huge opportunity there. They could have kept Roman Quinn until they found another option. Mickey Moniak would then have been starting every single day. Maybe by this point, he would have gotten into a groove, kind of like Bryson Stott. Now that Bryson Stott's hitting every single day, I mean, you can't. If Bryson Stott's pulled from the lineup at any given moment now, Rob Thompson will be making a big mistake. So, the domino effect by not making that move when you had the opportunity to is a big lost opportunity right there for the organization.
Yeah, I really hope, like you said, getting rid of the bad juju, guys like And I'm not saying DD is a bad guy. I don't think he fits on the team anymore. Odubel, could these guys, if they're traded to a contender elsewhere, could they get us a relief pitcher that actually can throw and actually can get a couple outs or something? Like, I have something that you want, you have something that I want. Let's exchange it, because what you have and what I have aren't fitting on our own teams. But if we do the trade, we help each other. Like those trades, and honestly, I don't think a lot of those trades happen in the Major League Baseball anymore. But I think those players are two of the prime guys, addition by subtraction, if you get rid of those guys. And then maybe you look to add somebody that really is going to help us at the trade deadline. I don't know. The one thing, though.
Unfortunately, I'm going to tell you, I don't think Odubel or DD fetches you even a serviceable middle reliever, honestly.
I don't know.
They're going to either get you a AAA guy that is like the 30th best prospect on the team, maybe, or they'll get you somebody that's in like single A that might have potential to be a top 10 guy. Well, you're going to get minor league depth, but which is actually something that this team needs.
Exactly.
This organization needs minor league depth for sure. If you might be able to get a 19 or a 20-year-old that has potential, that then down the line next year when you need to make a trade or in the offseason might have some trade value as part of a prospect package. But that's about it. I mean, you look at what when we traded guys like Jimmy Rollins away and Chase Utley away, and moved on from those guys, we didn't really even get big prospects for them. So, trading a guy like Didi Gregorius, to think you're going to get somebody that's going to step in and be lights out in the 6th inning, I think that's reaching. Unless you're throwing in something else.
No, we're not throwing in anything. We're not throwing in Andrew Painter or Mick Abel, if that's what you're thinking.
I want to bring up one other point here for Phillies, and we'll move on to the other topics. I'm actually okay outside of trading away Odubel or Didi for minor league depth, something like that, so that the young guys can play. I'm okay at this point saying that the Phillies are not buyers, but they're also not sellers. That I'm okay with the Phillies running out the season as is, because they're not winning the World Series, but you don't have to trade anything to try to maybe get from 83 wins to 86 wins and then just fall short of the playoffs or just get knocked out right away. There's no point in wasting assets to maybe get one game further into the playoffs. But also, they're good enough where I don't think they need to sell. It's not like I want to see them selling off, any of their best valuable players anymore. Do you get what I'm saying? I think this team is perfectly fine staying as is for the season, running it out, getting these young guys as much experience as they can, and just see what happens.
I equate where we're at with buying and selling. I don't know if you remember the 06 team. The 06 team traded away Bobby Abreu and Corey Lytle away at the trade deadline, and I forget who they got for them or whatever. But they were basically saying, we're out of it. We're going to trade these guys. And then they went on a run, and they were like, holy shit, now we're back in it. And they did a waiver deal to get Jamie Moyer because they had a chance to really do a push to get in the playoffs. And they didn't get into the playoffs that year, but they did the following year. And that's why I'm saying, well, let's trade Didi and Odubel, because I think they're that kind of team that they're teetering on. They're right in the middle of the pack, but they can get it over the hump. But it might be a little bit later in the season for them to realize that. If they want to bolster their bullpen, they don't have to make a trade. Mark Apple down in the minors is lights out right now. He's 30 years old. He's had a great
story.
Yeah, he's a guy that I think he deserves a shot versus what we have in our pen right now. What's the harm in bringing him up and maybe cutting, one of the myriad of middle relievers that we have that can't perform?
Look, I'm telling you, I'm still going back to the original thought from a week or two ago. I think there's a curse in that bullpen. Abel's lights out in AAA. He's going to come up here and get lit up game one, just because there is a curse in the Phillies bullpen. Somebody buried something under the mound, or there's some kind of a scent coming off the ivories in center field there. Something is causing that bullpen to, just implode every year, no matter who we bring in. I agree with you. I think you do that. You ride out Ranger Suarez. Everybody's down on Ranger Suarez after yesterday. And I tried to say, someone was bashing him on Twitter yesterday. I'm like, yo, look, the guy had 12 career starts coming in the season. We've given Zach Eflin 7 seasons, and people are still ready to extend that leash longer on Zach Eflin. He'll get there eventually. He's got potential. Well, he's 29. He's been in the league for 7 years. Ranger Suarez has 12 starts coming in the season, and people are ready to pull the plug. Yes, I know he's got issues, but again, we're not going to make a major trade for a major starting pitcher at this point. So why not just run it? Just let it go. See what you got. Give him. People want to give Jalen Hurts a full season last year. Let's give Ranger Suarez a full season as a starter before we start bumping him to the bullpen, back to the starting rotation, back to the bullpen. You don't have anybody ready like you do in the bullpen to step up from the minors. So you just ride it out with what you got at this point.
I agree, dude. Like he hasn't been great, but he hasn't been terrible either. And like, can you give me 4 innings? And then I get like somebody, and this is what I said yesterday, then maybe you can call up a Mark Apple who could come and give you 2 innings to get you to your 7th, 8th, and 9th guys who are a little bit more reliable, provided that you put them in the right position. Because the other guys aren't working. And then have Suarez grow to the 5th inning next, and then in the 6th inning, and have him build confidence. And that's, I think, what a lot of our younger guys have. They don't have the confidence, and they don't have the development that other teams are doing with their players. And that harkens back to their minor leagues and their coaching and the development that we have there. It's just not happening. It hasn't happened in the past. I think things are getting better. It's going to take time because I think guys like the 2 pitchers that are down there that are pitching like phenomenal right now, maybe in 2 years they're on the major league roster, and they're ready to go versus forcing a Ranger Suarez into a role that he hasn't been comfortable with because we weren't able to develop him properly when he was in the minor league. So, I think that's part of the problem that we have because under Klentak, there was so much dysfunction. How many players did he ruin? He ruined Scott Kingery's career. He ruined Nick Pivetta to the point we traded him elsewhere, and now Pivetta is what we wanted him to be. So there's a lot of work to be done in this organization. I do like where it's heading. It's going to take time, and the question is, do we have time?
My fear is like they want to make a move. I keep saying I want them to stay put for the most part, other than like the Odubel and Didi thing. You got somebody like Logan O'Hoppe or O'Hoopy or whatever. However, I don't know how you say his last name exactly. I'm going to call him O'Hoppe. Tearing the cover off the ball in Double-A, and catching prospects are extremely valuable in baseball. And you got JT for 3 more years. Sure, Logan O'Hoppe may be a trade asset, but not right now. You're not going to waste that big trade chip right now. You're going to wait and see. Wait till the offseason. Wait till next year when we're one step closer maybe to contending. But don't waste a trade chip like that right now just to maybe get an 8th inning reliever or to get a center fielder for, the second half of the season. You know what I'm getting at? Yeah, there's no point in – I don't want to see them moving Painter or Abel or whatever the other guy is down in single A. No need to waste those guys yet. Either let them keep developing to be part of our future or save them. Save them for, next year or the offseason when you really, really know what you have with this team.
Would you trade that catcher prospect?
If you're not going to get rid of JT, you kind of have to. He's 22 already. If you wait till JT's contract's over, he's going to be 25, 26. Do you really want a kid like that in your minor league system for 3 more years? Kind of seems redundant and a waste.
What if you move JT to first base and let Reese walk?
Well, that is an interesting thought process for sure. Absolutely. And then having a first baseman at $24 million is a lot more digestible than a $24 million catcher that's hitting 250. So yeah, I can get behind it. I brought up earlier before the win streak started about trading JT Realmuto. I know everybody bashed me for it, but it was a step back to take a step forward kind of thing. And I said it before. I don't think you can win spending $24 million on a catcher.
But here's the deal. With catcher, you're paying for his defensive abilities and his ability to handle a pitching staff almost as much as hitting. And if he can hit halfway decent, it's always a bonus. So he is still a fantastic defensive catcher, and he's fantastic calling games with the pitching slop that we put out there. So I think I think people forget about his what his value is behind the plate and not at the plate. I mean, if you want him to hit and hit well, then you probably should move him out of catcher into a first base. If that's what you signed him for. If you signed him to be the leader on the field, defensive-wise, then, I think you're getting your money's worth. And I get in arguments with this all the time. I mean, one of the best catchers this organization ever had was Darren Dalton, and he didn't really start hitting toward late in his career, and it wasn't like he was a great hitter. I mean, he hit like 20-some-odd home runs in the steroid era, had a couple hundred RBI seasons, but his average was always like in the 230s, the 250s. He wasn't hitting much. You pay catchers to catch and to be the field general out there. And when you have a really good one, you tend not to want to give that person up. So Chooch was, I mean, the year he took the Adderall, obviously he hit off the hook, but he was very, very good defensive catcher that all his pitchers swore by. So he's, that's where that person's value is. And we have other guys in the lineup, Phil, that should be picking up the slack for when JT Realmuto goes 0 for 3. Mm-hmm. The problem is not everybody's doing that, like we said, and that we have to rest or move guys around in the lineup so they can see better pitches. And that is Rob Thompson's job, to do that juggle. Girardi refused to do it, didn't want to do it. I think Rob is going to be more flexible in that. So good things to see in the future. Trust me.
Yeah. All right, we're going to move on off for the Phillies. We'll pick up more Phillies talk tomorrow. See how the Phillies do tonight against the Marlins. I think Aaron Nola goes tonight, so it should be a good game. So I want to talk a little bit more about the LIV Golf Tour. We brought it up briefly last week. Me and Jason talked about it. The thought process of sports washing. For those that don't know, the LIV Golf Tour is new alternative tour backed by the Saudi Prince, money fund, whatever you want to call it. Some pretty despicable people have done some pretty horrible things. They're sports washing, which is basically the act of using sports to basically, hey, look, I do this bad stuff over here, but look at this great thing I'm doing over here, and make you forget about this awful thing. Obviously, sports washing goes back for ages. I brought it up. You could probably talk about, the Romans and the Colosseum and gladiators. That was probably considered sports washing at the time too, because the Romans weren't doing great things, but everybody went to the Colosseum to see these great, gladiators fight. You got the Nazis in the Olympics in 36 or 38. It's something that's gone on for a long time. So the LIV Golf Tour, basically, in a nutshell, had their first event this week. And for those that aren't following, they're paying a lot of golfers to jump ship from the PGA Tour to the LIV Tour. And there's 48 golfers. Some of the things, it's obviously a lot of upfront money being given to these guys to join this tour. But the guys that are joining this tour, the big names, the Dustin Johnsons, the Phil Mickelsons, even the mid guys like Taylor Gooch or Charles Schwartzer. Charles Schwartzer won the event this weekend, and he said in his post, tournament press conference, basically, that, yeah, this was a great event, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? The money. I mean, how can I say no to this money? And a lot of guys are joining this tour because they want change on the PGA Tour. And there's a lot of things that they want to change on the PGA Tour. But they're accepting money from the Saudis to do that. And, the most famous quote, the most famous person on the tour is Phil Mickelson. And in his quote a couple months ago, before he quit golf for a little while, he said, there's some scary mother effers over there in Saudi. But you know what? I'm going to take their money anyway. That's basically paraphrasing his exact words. So, Mark, I know you don't know a lot about golf, but I want to ask you about the thought process of these golfers. Because they want to make change. Are they going about making change the wrong way?
Yeah, you're getting in bed with bad people. Like I wouldn't. My morals. I mean, do you have morals?
Yeah.
Do these people have morals? And how much is like Phil Mickelson doesn't need $200 million. No. That dude has money for his, the next two generations of his family already. So I find it peculiar that they would do this. Like yes, there is change, and there is an option, a big option, but oh boy, the people that are running it are not the people that you would want to be associated with or get in bed with. So they made a decision that they feel is the right decision. Now the PGA should do something. I mean, like they need to do something. And even if it's like backroom government stuff that basically says you need to fix this because we can't have these guys infiltrating our sports system because they already control our oil. They already own a lot of property here. Like you don't want to, they're almost like frenemies is basically what they are. I mean, they do bad things, but we need them for their oil. And that's just a bigger political problem that you got here. I mean, I give accolades to Tiger Woods turning down $1 billion.
Basically, like $900 million to join the tour up front, and then any money he made on the tour.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty huge, man. Like it's $1 billion. Phil, somebody came to you and said they were Saudis and wanted to buy your pizza restaurant for $1 billion. You're going to take that $1 billion, right? I mean, it's just. I mean, it's hard to say no, man. It's hard to say no. I get that, and there's some
middle-level guys. I forget which one it was. Somebody finished in like 10th place this week on the LIV Tour, and I forget which name the golfer was, but he made more in his upfront signing bonus and this week on tour than he had made in his previous 5 years on tour, just in one weekend, because of the way they're treating them. And there's no TV deal; everything's on YouTube and online. And a lot of people like me said, because obviously, for those that don't know, I host a golf podcast on Tuesday nights. And I said last week, I'm not going to break down their tournaments. I'm not going to say who to bet on. I'm not getting involved in the fantasy aspect of that league. I just won't. But there are a lot of other people that were saying the same thing. And now in literally one quick week, they've all flipped their tune. And they're like, oh, well, when's the next tour event on that tour? Who are we going to bet to win that event? And let's start talking about it. I won't do it. But I do fear that all this money that they're throwing, now there's Bryson DeChambeau, Patrick Reed, more names are showing up and saying, well, maybe I will go over there and take this money. And it's going to hurt the PGA Tour product at first because you're losing some of these big names. Now, the PGA Tour has come out and said, anybody that tees it up, and all 48 guys that teed it up, all of them that were on the PGA Tour, like 18 or 20 of them, have all been indefinitely suspended. They haven't said for how long. But the problem is the top guys don't really care. As long as they can play in the major events. The U.S. Open is this week. The Masters, the PGA Championship, and the Open Championship at St. Andrews this year. As long as they could play in those events, they could care less about the rest of the PGA Tour events. And the majors are governed by different bodies than the PGA. Like Augusta National governs the Masters. So they have to make an individual decision on that. The PGA does the PGA Championship, but the U.S. Open is the USGA. Totally different body. So all the guys that played last week, even though they're suspended, are all teeing it up this week at the U.S. Open. So it's kind of a really sticky situation that if the PGA doesn't do something quickly, they're going to lose a lot of their star power to this tour.
I mean, again, I know how to play golf, Phil. I don't know the inner workings of how the whole PGA is run, where the money goes, who gets, like what percentage of the money goes to the players versus, the governing body. I mean, obviously, it sounds to me like the PGA puts most of the money in their pocket.
They absolutely do.
And only the top half every weekend get a cut of something. And it varies from event to event.
Absolutely.
So
that's one of the big sticking points right there.
So is there a golfer union? I mean, like we talk about, should there be a union?
There probably should be.
Okay.
The point is somebody like Wesley Bryan, he finished in second or third place this week. He's like a bottom 200 golfer in the world, on the PGA Tour wise. He had a thing like 6 months ago where he didn't qualify for an event or he didn't make any money in an event. And he listed all his bills for going to this tour stop and how much money he had to put out for his caddy, his swing coach, his travel expenses, his food expenses, and he went dirt cheap on his travel expenses, and he made no money because once you're cut, the first 2 rounds, and they cut 50 to 60% of the field, and then only the people that make the weekend get paid. On the Saudi tour, doesn't matter if you finish in first place or last place. Last place got $120,000 this weekend for playing on the Saudi tour.
Dude, and listen, that's
a big sticking point right there.
If you're a fringe golfer and you made 120 grand, you made your nut for the year to live on. You could live very nicely on 120,000.
I mean, honestly though, if you're going to play, and so the top guys, Tiger Woods when he was a top guy, Dustin Johnson, Rory McIlroy, who won this week at the RBC Canadian Open, those guys, I mean, obviously they make a lot of money. They could do whatever. But the low level guys, so the top guys play in like 12 to 14 events a year. There's outside of like 3 or 4 weeks a year, there's about 48 tournaments a year. The low level guys playing about 40 of the 48 events. And that's airfare to each event. That's a hotel or an Airbnb at each event. That's food and beverage at each event. That's paying your swing coach to come work with you every single week. That's your caddy. That if you don't, so the way your caddy gets paid, if you cash, the caddy gets approximately 10% of your money. If you don't cash, you still got to pay him. And you got to pay his room and board and travel. So there's a lot of money that goes out to be, you're like an independent contractor. You put a lot of money out hoping to make money.
Sounds like
I understand. I get why they do it, but again, it comes down to morals and values. Would you rather play on the best tour in the world and maybe make this money and hope to make this money and work to beat the best, or go over and get that easy payday and set your family up for generations? I get why they're wanting to set their families up for generations, but I also can't justify it because it's glossing over the fact that you're taking blood money to an extent.
You are, and it's not good. I mean, it's not.
I'm really torn on.
And you already have Saudi Arabia pretty much has a control over a lot of. Listen, you want to get into politics and shit like that. I mean, the Saudis are the ones that took down those 2 buildings in New York. They were Saudi people. They were Saudi backed, and we went and attacked Iraq as a result. So just goes to show you where our U.S. government is whose bed they're laying in when shit like that happens. Now you're at a point where you're allowing them to invade your sports landscape, which if there's anything that's Americana, it's our football, baseball, basketball, hockey, our own soccer, our own golf, and all the other sports. We are known, America, we're known as much about our sports as about a lot of other things that make us us. And now you have a foreign influence that is coming in. It's not good. It really isn't good. From a golfer perspective, it is selfish, but the PGA has basically forced their hand in doing something because they refuse to do some of the things that would keep these guys happy. Paying every golfer for every event would be a step in the right direction.
They can absolutely afford to pay every golfer.
I'm sure they can.
Absolutely.
I'm sure they can. And the other thing, too, you talk about events and how many of the top golfers might go to 15 events. Well, those 15 events, and there's how many golfers in the LIV? The 50?
Yeah, there's 48 this past week, but there's about 50 to 55 that have.
All right, so there's 50 to 55 players that are now suspended indefinitely from the PGA. Mm-hmm. And how many guys go to a tournament?
Depends on whether it's an open or an invitational, anywhere from 120 to this week's U.S. Open's got 156 guys teeing it up.
All right, so 156 guys. So you got 156 guys that are going to this tournament, 50 of which are suspended now. Mm-hmm. Now, do they open up another 50 spots, Phil?
Yeah.
Okay, so chances are there are guys that would have never been there in the first place. So the golfer that was 156th out of the original list now is 106th. So now he has a greater chance of making that cut. So it actually helps these guys a little bit under the old rules of the PGA, but the new guys coming in, like, that doesn't help them.
Right.
But it gives some of the guys that always miss the cut, now they have a chance to make the cut on some probably big events, like you said, because a lot of these guys only go to the bigger events where they can make more money. So it's, yes, them moving helps that golfer personally big time. It does help the other guys too because they have a better chance, but the system is still broken.
Exactly. And look, you say, the money, they could do it. Whether they unionize or do something, pay everybody, health benefits. Like I compare this to a lot to the WWE because the WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment, they got in bed with the Saudis as well. Okay, that's why I keep linking them back to this. Wrestlers are considered independent contractors as well. The WWE, whatever. But they do at least, if you get hurt while you're wrestling, they will cover your medical expenses. You get hurt on the PGA Tour, Bryson DeChambeau, he hurt himself. He was trying because he's a big swinger. He likes to hit the ball far. He tried to do some training to go do a world drive competition. He got paid some money to do that. He hurt his hip and his wrist doing that. Well, he didn't play for 6-7 weeks. That means he made no money for 6-7 weeks. And his surgery, that was out of his pocket. So, the PGA now Bryson DeChambeau has made plenty of money to be able to afford that. But if he was the 156th ranked golfer, he doesn't have the money to pay for a back surgery or a hip surgery or whatever. And the PGA Tour doesn't help you with that. So there's a lot of things the PGA Tour can do to instantly put the kibosh on this. I guarantee it. Dustin Johnson, he might just want the money because he's at the point he's won his majors. He's 38 years old. If you don't know who Dustin Johnson is, Mark, he's married to Wayne Gretzky's daughter. He's married to Wayne Gretzky's daughter.
She's a smoke show. I know who she is.
Exactly. He's also been suspended from the PGA multiple times for drugs. He's a big fan of certain extracurricular activities. That was not my allergies. That was just a little jab there. But he's done. He doesn't care. He just wants the money. He got $125 million up front. He's happy, But someone like Taylor Gooch, who is like a mid-level guy, if he knew he could go back to the PGA Tour and be taken care of properly, he might not have gone because he's a guy that might win once or twice in his career. He's not a guy that's going to win a lot. He's going to make enough money to be okay, but you make those changes. Someone like Taylor Gooch will never go over there. Someone like Bryson DeChambeau might not ever go over there. Mm-hmm. So you can make some changes now. These guys would come back. But, it's an interesting little topic there that I'm still torn on how to fully grasp the situation because, I feel like I have to talk about it, but I can't justify what they're doing.
No, I can't either. And going back to the WWE, when they do that Saudi wrestling match, it's usually like in the day because of the time differential. Look at the faces of the wrestlers. They don't want to be there.
Well,
They're very uncomfortable.
A lot of the main wrestlers, not like they'll pay a lot of the big stars, like the Undertaker or whatever, to go down there, Brock Lesnar. But a lot of the mid-level guys, the guys that I watch wrestling, like I know Kevin Owens or Sami Zayn or some of these, they refuse to go. And the WWE says, fine, they don't make them go. They just pay the guys that go a little bit extra money. At least they're willing to let their wrestlers make that decision on their own. But, I respect those guys for turning down that big bonus for going. Someone like Kevin Owens would get a huge 6-figure bonus for going to wrestle once. And he chooses to say, nah, not doing it. Not going in and performing in front of those people. So, it's an interesting thought. I don't watch a lot of wrestling anymore, but when that stuff comes on, turn the TV right off because I won't show that support.
It's one of our biggest exports is entertainment, whether it's sports or movies, and you see a lot of it. And I'm a little more awakened to that than I have before. Like your movies, for example, for China. Like they do certain things in movies to appease the Chinese audience and they're what they like so they can make the money. And a lot of filmmakers true filmmakers don't want to bow down to the Chinese to sell money. Same thing when you talk about the NBA and their China imprint there. I mean, our own Daryl Morey is probably, if he goes into China, he'll be assassinated for what he said about them a few years ago. And LeBron kind of came out and had China's back, which a lot of people don't like. I mean, our own Allen Iverson, he makes, honestly, all his money through Reebok right now. And he goes on tours to China several times a year. He is like a god over there. Stephon Marbury has a statue. He's got a statue of him out there. And it's Oh gosh, I mean, I if I was that type of person where I was a professional athlete, but also an American, I don't know how comfortable I would feel in China or in Saudi.
I think
because of the other things that
you made a
revolve around
comment.
it.
Would I take $900 million from the Saudis to sell my pizza shop? But I'm a broke ass 41-year-old man. But the people we're talking about have made money. Do they really need that blood money, to call it that? It's a bit of an extreme term, but it's not. Maybe there's an extreme there, setting up me and my family where I scratch pennies together like you, or a guy that's made $100 million already taking another 125. I think there's got to be a fine line there too.
Greed is
money wants
greed
more
kills,
money.
man. Yeah, it does. What did I say?
Money.
More money, more problems too. What was Wall Street? Greed, for lack of a better term, is good.
Yeah, something like that.
I guess not for me. I don't see myself as a greedy person, but
you just want that political office that you're running for.
I ran for that office. I can't find for anywhere my vote total anywhere. So God only knows.
You got one vote, your vote, and that's all.
I know. At least I got one vote. I voted for myself. So
you should have voted. I told you should have voted Ric Flair. So at least you could have said
I beat Ric Flair.
Yeah.
All
right,
man.
we didn't even get to Ocho Cinco, but we got to wrap it up for the day there. We'll bring up the Ocho Cinco conversation tomorrow.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah, we can talk about. I just don't get it. Somebody needs to fill me in on what's going on.
I know exactly. So we'll work on that. We'll start that conversation off tomorrow. We'll be back with Phillies Talk tomorrow. Tomorrow will be Mark and Jason joining me here on Trending in the AM. Hopefully, I figure out what's wrong with my computer and I have my graphics working and stuff like that. But anyway, everybody have a great day, a great Monday, great start to the week. Let's see what the Phillies do. And yeah. Hey, Mark, thanks for joining me. Make sure you shoot Mark a follow at Mark with a C and me at Beard of Knowledge. And we'll be back tomorrow, everybody. Have a great day.
Have a good one.